What is going on, fish? Welcome back to the Coy Pond, number 39.
Woohoo!
You know, it's another week, it's another podcast episode, joined by your hostess with the mostest, big old K-Dog.
Right on, almost to 40.
Almost to 40, we're very close. But yeah, we've done it once again. We made it through another couple weeks. We got 4 more Thursdays.
Roughly, yeah.
Give or take 4 or 5 more Thursdays until the first NFL week.
Call it a month and we're there.
We've almost made it through the most boring part of the season, and on top of that, what has been the lengthiest part of our podcast history.
and now the most anticipated hold your breath time of year. Yes. Please don't let anybody on my team get severely hurt before the season starts. Oh my God.
There's already...
That's what happens now.
I bear with me. I can't remember whose training camp it was. I think it was the Falcons. Someone had to get airlifted out of there today on the
Rondale Moore.
Moore. Yep. And so
down a receiver in Atlanta land.
The training camp is oh so frustrating because now this is you can get crippled. I mean, Herbert's already got plantar fasciitis.
Yep.
They don't sound like it's going to be a big deal, so I'm not going to freak out about it yet. But, this is the time of the year where people will get hurt without ever even seeing a game.
And this is the time of the year where when you hear week to week, it could mean anything under the sun.
Oh, my God.
Week to week could actually mean 1 week, or it could mean we're not sure he's going to be back for the season, or whatever. I mean, it's week to week is such a gray term.
It's anything.
And teams are doing everything from, and I don't envy them. Preseason, if you don't play, you start out rusty in week 1.
Yep.
You risk losing a game or two right out of the gate that can cost you the playoffs in the end. If you play them, you get hurt. Everybody's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yep.
You're just damned if you do and damned if you don't.
No, you really are.
There's 2 times in the season. One is at the end, when you've got nothing to play for, do you rest your starters? That's one. And number 2 is in the preseason, what do? Do you play them or do you not? And so, thank God, we're done with that 4th preseason game.
Yes.
So we don't have to deal with that anymore. I didn't realize that the 90 to 75 player cut in the past used to happen between week 3 and week 4. And
of the regulars or the preseason?
Of the preseason. What's strange about that is, so you're going into the 4th preseason game in the looking back, how it used to be before it changed to this current format. But they also squashed you back 15 players before the meaningless 4th preseason game, which makes no sense. So he's like, I was listening to Rick Spielman, who was a general manager, I think, for the Vikings, and he was talking on NFL Network today about, I never understood that. Why would you give up 15 low-level players when you're getting ready to play a week that doesn't really even matter?
No, so then you're putting in meaningful second stringers at the very least, or just people that would technically have more meaning to you than the other 15.
He's like, we would throw a D lineman and a guard, things like that. A guard, a D line, an end, just to kind of mix it up, so we were not risking somebody that was important to us.
Yeah.
So kind of an interesting little look back as to how it was. Glad it's how it is now.
Yeah, it's funny to just think about how the game's changed even in the last 20 years. In that sense of, the different schedules, more weeks, less weeks, bye weeks, maybe more, just that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, speaking of injuries, Christian McCaffrey, out of the gate.
Has a calf strain and is unlikely to participate in preseason per Kyle Shanahan. This would be one that I would say is, he probably has nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And if they had a game that mattered, he would play?
Yes.
What do you think?
I mean, I think him not playing at all out of the gate is the better idea.
Yeah.
Regardless, even if he didn't have a calf strain as a running back, that's not something I feel like you need reps. In game preseason reps.
Yep.
I think for a running back, with how that position's gone the last few years, it makes no sense to have them play preseason games for starters. Unless they are somehow abundantly, like, it's part of their ritual. Don't put them in. So them having an injury is even better.
Now, for anybody that's playing in any of the fantasy leagues I'm in, and especially Don't Tell Mom, the league Don't Tell Mom, I recommend, if you were going to take Christian McCaffrey, that maybe you move on to somebody else. So this is really risky, and just a little fantasy advice there for people close to home.
I definitely would not take him at all. But I just don't get it.
Yeah.
It's a shame he has the calf strain, but he'll be fine.
Yeah,
I would imagine. It's Christian McCaffrey. He's not grandpa. He's not crippled.
Right.
But
do you want to stay in San Fran land and talk about Brandon Aiyuk?
That's what I was going to segue into is fantasy-wise, Brandon Aiyuk might be getting a new change of scenery. And as a lot of you know, or probably remember, we had him ranked...
up there, didn't we?
On our top wide receivers for fantasy?
Was he?
Oh, I think we had him
top 10? Top 5?
We had him at like 17.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
pretty down there.
I think we dropped him to the floor.
My.
But you know what?
You're talking about the guy that looks like Mike Tomlin?
Yes.
If you've never noticed that, take a look at a picture of Brandon Aiyuk and look at Mike Tomlin for the Steelers head coach. They're
eerily similar. I think we talked about it last season too.
They are related somehow. We just don't know how.
Some bastard son.
But the Steelers are ironically interested in him.
Yeah, you know.
The Patriots have dropped out of the race apparently and want to go with their young receivers.
Right.
So, and the other team that I last heard interested was the Browns.
Yes, the Browns were interested. But what I do remember is that they were looking for a certain criteria.
Oh, okay.
And the 49ers.
Oh, the
Niners. They want to be able to trade wide receivers. And that's why originally the Steelers were out of it. There was a moment there where the Steelers were the top dog. They fell out of it for the Browns and Patriots, being Kendrick Bourne or Amari Cooper going to the 49ers. But as of late, the Steelers have come back into the negotiations because it's the only place Aiyuk wants to go.
Yeah.
So it's been this whole, not cat and mouse game, but, more or less just trying to figure out who's going to end up winning that.
Gotcha.
I was trying to see real quick where we put Brandon Aiyuk.
Huh, interesting.
Because I'm pretty sure that was one of our very, very hot takes.
Yeah. No, he's a great receiver. If he went to the Steelers, along with them now having, Russell Wilson and who's the other dude from Ohio State?
Oh, Justin Fields.
Yeah, Justin Fields.
We had him at 15, by the way.
15. Okay. So he might climb up from there, or do you think he might go lower?
That was our predictions for this upcoming year.
Yeah.
He was like a number 1 wide receiver last year.
Okay.
I don't know.
Are you thinking he wouldn't be that high?
I'm thinking he might land where we'd expect him, where we said he would on the video, because he's either going to have Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Drake May, or Brissett.
Okay.
Which, is a big downgrade from any sort of 49ers offense, in my opinion.
You would think, yeah. Good point.
But all I was getting at is that we originally had the hot take of him not having a good year this upcoming year.
Yeah.
We got trashed for it. But now it's looking like if he gets to one of these teams...
Gotcha, I'm following you.
He might be a wide receiver 1, which then, I'm getting back on that fucking water. He won't have as good of a quarterback or offensive scheme as he does now.
Well, just the pond. So
we're taking a dip,
here. But what you're really getting at is we might turn out to be right on this.
We might have shot ourselves in the foot, but then stumbled onto a gold mine. Yeah.
Hey,
we struck oil via the shot.
Nobody gives a shit what it looks like, just so it accomplishes the feat, right?
Exactly. So
doesn't matter how you get there.
Wouldn't that be hilarious?
That'd be funny stuff.
If we accidentally did that.
Well,
that's all I'm getting at. Short story long.
Speaking of testy, let's talk a little bit about the Lions and Giants joint practice.
There you go.
You want to talk about some heated practices they had. What do you think about that?
It's to be expected in these joint practices, but to the extent, I'll throw up the Twitter video while we're talking about this, but Malik Neighbors just open palm, it wasn't even a punch, it was like uppercutting him.
Yeah.
As he walked by. It was a drive-by while you were walking.
Yeah.
It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It was just kind of like, boom, like this.
Yeah, and it kind of took off.
Almost like he was halfway past him before he did it.
Yes, and I find it hilarious that he's kind of reminding me of OBJ.
That's who I thought of. That's exactly it. And when I read more about him, they said he is like owning the ball in camp. Like anything that comes his way, he's pissed if he doesn't catch it. And I'm like, that's OBJ.
Yeah. I wanted to compare him to Victor Cruz.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this
is too much attitude.
This is an attitude.
Yeah.
I'm like, if he was a solid wide receiver that had no problems, Victor Cruz. But now that he's doing all this shit, it's like, oh man, that was like, whatever Norman and OBJ.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he walked by and just bam.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Very reminiscent. You're right.
This is training camp. Who really fucking knows? Daniel Jones could do whatever he wants and screw up Neighbors' career, but it reminds me a lot. The fines are crazy.
$200,000 for each team.
Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, you're not surprised that the Lions would be in a situation like this. I mean, it's Dan Campbell, for God's sakes.
Man, we're gonna bite kneecaps off.
I mean, outside of Dan Campbell and Jim Harbaugh, I mean, who I think are two of the most physical coaches.
Yeah.
Their style that they want their team to exhibit. The Giants surprised the hell out of me, and if they have half as much physicality in the season they had in this practice.
It's not a bad look for either team, to be completely honest. I don't hate it in that sense. It's just fucking hilarious that they got that many fines between the both of them.
It's not even a game. It's not. You weren't using HGH. I mean, you weren't gambling on the sport. You got heated in 96-degree temperature. Who's not getting heated at that?
Oh my God! And
that's I'm surprised that the NFL did that.
I am too. I will say I think what did it was the social media. I think they were getting posted on Twitter too often, too many angles, and I think it became more of a topic of discussion than they wanted it to be. And I think that's what might have caused it or sparked it. The other thing is that I'm not surprised that Daboll's team is physical either. The difference is Daboll's team hasn't been good.
Yeah,
but. He's personally one of the coaches I think of when I think of physical, because Buffalo kind of lost that edge once he went to the Giants, but he's been working with Daniel Jones, hurt Saquon, no wide receivers. Like, it just hasn't had much to work with, so I think this is a great sign.
I don't think there's anything to lose, from a little bit of money for both teams from that. And if it makes them tougher, it gives them a reputation.
Well, I mean, with the way the Lions season ended last year and the way the Giants have been, it's kind of a great look both ways somehow.
I agree. Neither one can be anything but helped from it.
Right.
So that's awesome stuff.
And knowing the Giants have a dog, it seems like, as a wide receiver.
And going from physicality to the opposite of that, Jonathan Gannon. What did he decide with Kyler Murray?
Oh, yeah. Kyler Murray will not be playing in the preseason at all, which is interesting given that he didn't play in the regular season at all.
How much football has this guy played since his career started?
The conversation about him playing more Call of Duty than football was loud for a little bit, but now it's feeling like it might be.
It's real.
It kind of is. And he's not a bad quarterback. He came out at the end of the season and did well, but also how many teams had given up by then?
And you think of him... I forget the name of the prior coach for the Cardinals, but I mean they were together in college.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
But he got testy and got kind of pissy with that guy.
Yeah, he did.
And so now it's kind of like Jonathan Gannon, is he just acquiescing to what Kyler Murray wants to do? And to me, he's not good enough to dictate. He's not Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
He's not
no, he's
Pat Mahomes.
No.
And he's acting like he is. And to me, if I'm a Cardinals fan, you don't want to play all the preseason games, but you should get a couple snaps maybe in the first couple.
Right. And is your beef more with him dictating what he does rather than the coach saying what we're going to have Kyler Murray do?
I think it's that, and I think it's also just that he hasn't played a lot to really warrant not playing in the preseason. He's not Christian McCaffrey, right?
That makes sense. I think
hasn't shown it.
Well, also a quarterback in preseason versus a running back in preseason. You're only going to get so many different directional runs with a running back, but a quarterback, it probably feels nice to knock the rust off. But again, he's not one of those quarterbacks. He's definitely.
He's more of a running back, is what you're saying.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I meant more like he hasn't earned that yet as a quarterback
to
be able to say that type of thing. At least it feels like it. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, how many games he's missed over the last 2 years, but he's one of the quarterbacks that feels like he's missed a lot.
Well, speaking of a quarterback that missed a lot, and this is Alex Smith we're talking about now.
Oh, geez. That picture was crazy.
That poor guy, and Colin will have the picture on here, but he shared a picture of his leg from nearly 6 years after fracturing his tibia and fibula, and oh boy.
Yeah, if you got to... This isn't typically your thing, skip ahead 15 seconds. I'm going to put it up right now, but that was a crazy looking... It's healed. It's not gory or anything like that, but it's a crazy picture of what happened that day.
Yeah.
Kind of like, the scar, literally the scars of it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Almost looks like a mannequin leg.
It does.
When you look at it. So
I almost didn't know what I was looking at out of the gate. It was just everyone knew it was bad, but I didn't realize how bad.
Yeah. So the fact that the guy actually came back from that,
yes,
and actually successfully played snaps and so forth,
T's and P's.
That's a miracle.
Yes, that is
total miracle.
And he had a great career for what it's worth.
He really did. Good solid guy.
It doesn't get talked about a lot, but between what was it, the 49ers, Chiefs, and Commanders, Redskins.
Yeah,
that he had a good career.
Oh, he did.
Just ended terribly.
It was awful.
Well, gruesome, I should say.
Yeah, and it's so weird. I mean, the parallels to Joe Theismann's Monday night injury when Morris Taylor fell on his leg. I think it was the Monday night.
It was the same
date.
Yeah.
It was so weird, the parallels between that. I don't know what the hell that's about, but
I would hate to be playing for the Commanders this upcoming. Whenever that next due date is.
Exactly. Steer clear of that one.
Yeah, if it's every 10 or 15 years, whatever the timeline is in between, I would not be that starting quarterback.
Well, what do you want to roll on to next?
We could talk about the I don't know. That's a good question. We could roll into the stay in the AFC West and roll to the Broncos.
Perfect.
All right. So Stidham is listed as the starting quarterback on the Broncos depth chart right now. Now, Sean Payton came out and praised Bo Nix, made Bo Nix sound like he was going to be the not glorified, this definite Week 1 starter from everything he was saying, to be completely honest. And then this comes out and it's Stidham, and I think Bo Nix was the third on that list.
Yeah.
Because it was
definitely.
Was it Stidham? Nah.
I forget who's number 2.
It's another one of those guys, but he's 3. So I don't personally hate that either.
No.
Because I don't think he should be the second string. Wait, let me rephrase that. I think Stidham, just like how the Patriots will probably do it with Brissett, the Broncos should ride Stidham for as many games as the fan base can hang on to the point where if they win or lose, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And then finally start Bo Nix if they feel comfortable and it can't get any worse against a defense that will not murder him.
Yeah.
Maybe an easier week. Who knows what team that would be, but an easier week in Denver and try and, build him up a little bit better. And I think that's honestly why they probably didn't have Bo Nix as the Week 1 starter, because I feel like Week 1 starting as a rookie quarterback on a few years of a team that have been ass is a recipe for disaster.
It is.
Because the expectations usually get mauled out of the gate.
Yeah, it really is. And I think Bo Nix clearly has more upside.
Oh yeah, I think he'll be
I do too.
He'll be a good quarterback, I think.
And Sean Payton knows that. So
yes.
Sean Payton recognizes that if he pushes him and makes him work hard,
yes,
they're going to get that potential out of him. So Stidham has nowhere to go really from here.
No.
Except down, probably.
To be quite frank, yes. And I think the Broncos even drafted him 4 or 5 years ago at least.
So I think Nix will be starting at some point.
Yeah.
But like you said, I agree. He's going to make him work into it, and the team around is still building too. So
it is.
If he had a great team and you felt like Bo Nix had it, he might throw him out there.
Right.
But if you're going to throw a guy out there that you think is the future and get the hell beat out of him, doesn't make a lot of sense.
I completely agree. And more than likely, Sean Payton feels like he's finally got his guy at Denver after... I don't think he was there. He was the original person there for the Russell Wilson fiasco. I think it was Vic Fangio.
Yeah, you're right. He inherited that. That's right.
Sean Payton finally took out the trash.
Yeah.
He got rid of Jerry Jeudy. Did a little spring cleaning. I think this is going to mark the kind of turn for the Broncos.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to make it even to 6 wins, but I think as a franchise, this is a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, Sean Payton finally probably feels like he has his guy, so it's not maybe more personal to him now, but it probably means more than just inheriting this shit pile of a team and having to figure out what to do with Russell Wilson wearing his own jersey to the first training practice and all these other pieces of the puzzle that don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So my 2 cents on the matter. We'll see how it ends up. I'm hoping the most for Bo Nix, to be honest. Oregon quarterback. That's 2 in the AFC West now.
That'd be pretty wild, huh?
Who knows?
Yep. Yeah. Quick little note on Connor Williams. So if you're looking. The other thing you look at this time of year is you get into training camp and you start getting injuries. You're looking at who's the best that's still available. So in this case, the Seattle Seahawks signed Connor Williams, guard center. I think he was playing center last from the Dolphins last year, and he signed a 1-year deal with the Seahawks. So
probably a good deal for them.
Yeah, you started keeping an eye on who's left, what do you have, what are your needs, who's getting banged up, who, God forbid, gets hurt and is out for the season, you got to pull somebody in. But the bottom of the rosters, and all these teams are in churn mode,
right?
Too, so this is a main free agent, but you're also seeing on the bottom of the roster, like the bottom 5 guys are just turning over as they try to rotate players in and out of their camps to try to find that hidden gem.
No doubt. Who is the new Seattle Seahawks coach?
I'm not even sure.
I don't know off the top of my head who they snuck in there.
Yeah.
Because I guess it wasn't news.
I rewatched last night. Last year, the Seahawks played at Dallas.
Right.
And it was a
DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Out of the gate.
3 touchdowns, I think.
Yep.
I think it was like 41-35.
The overs were a beautiful thing that game.
I forgot what a hell of a game that was to watch.
Well, that wasn't expected to be either because it wasn't Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember out of the gate taking something on that game for Dallas, and DK Metcalf has that touchdown. It's like, holy fuck, here we go.
Well, and that was November, I think, is when that game was.
Could have been.
So it was starting to kind of, not to get off topic here, but it was starting to show the cracks in Dan Quinn's defense. If the Cowboys didn't get up and on top of somebody, the defense really struggled and reared its ugly head with the Packer game at the end.
Yeah,
so
like icing on the cake. But Dan Quinn's with the Commanders now.
Head coach of the Commanders now.
I thought I heard somebody coming. Oh, he's head coach.
Yeah, head coach.
Was it Jaden Daniels then that came out saying something like, I like Dan Quinn, I have faith in his something? And I personally, from hearing, talking to this guy for quite some time every week, I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, clearly he's a rookie.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like Dan Quinn's going to be the answer for that team, but it also feels like that's where veterans are going to die right now.
Yeah. Dan Quinn is kind of and you're right. And the reason for that is because he's a player's coach. So he's a real rah-rah. He's not a real schematic guy. So he relies on the players to make him
look good.
Yeah, really. And so he really is kind of about, come on, let's do it.
Oh, boy.
So those guys that don't like the Belichick style or
Harbaugh,
the Mike Zimmer style or Harbaugh,
some of the harder guys,
they're going to go there because he's going to be a rah-rah man.
That makes sense. I did want to ask you about how that made you feel, because I saw it and I was like,
yeah,
I don't know if I'd say that, but I'm not in the locker room. I don't know.
I've been hearing, watching Cowboys camp things and all that, watching the scrimmages. The Zimmer is very schematic based, and so it's really about not who's in the role, but about the position and the discipline of what you're doing in that role. And it's really night and day from Dan Quinn.
Gotcha.
I remember being just as frustrated with Mike Zimmer's defense back when Bill Parcells was coaching the Cowboys and they couldn't stop somebody. So I don't know what's better. We'll see. Usually what works the best is when you turn. So you've been doing something a certain way, and the first year you turn to a different style, usually is when you have the most success, because
no one's ready for it.
Nobody's ready for it. Your team's on its toes. They want to impress a new coach. So that's the moment you're going to have the most success, it seems to me.
I would agree with that. That makes a lot of sense, honestly. Yeah. Speaking of which, for Cowboys coordinators, Kellen Moore on the Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles, apparently, that Jalen Hurts came out, and I think this was a little bit ago, and said the offense is 95% Kellen Moore, or something like that, in the 90%. And it's come out now that I think it was
I saw this.
Jalen Hurts saying, or someone saying, and there was no reputable source, that the relationship behind Jalen Hurts and Sirianni has been frayed.
Yes.
Whether or not that's true or not, let's talk about that.
That's interesting. I just saw that today at lunchtime.
I did too.
Yeah, and it explains a lot about last season, if that's the case.
Last season was an actual clusterfuck for them.
And they lost both coordinators.
Yeah.
So that meant Sirianni was working directly with Hurts.
Yes.
And clearly, if that had worked, and we know it didn't from the record, they wouldn't have even gone and got Kellen Moore.
Exactly.
So, very interesting.
It only, and I agree, that only shows more that if they were working closer together than they were the year before, because he's the coach of the Colts now.
I forget his name.
Whatever his name is. So if, that means Hurts and Sirianni are working together more often, just in general, if he's doing most of the offensive stuff, and they're not getting along, that'll be interesting to see if that rears its ugly head this season.
Again, yeah.
Because everyone was saying it was Big Don. That was the funniest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, it really was.
How he was the coordination of the causation thing, where Big Don goes away for the rest of the season, and they fucking tank after that. But in reality, we're finding out what it could be, allegedly, possibly, don't sue us, is that Sirianni has no idea how to talk to Jalen Hurts.
Yep. But a little side note, I believe they promoted Don.
They did. They gave him
a different role.
Yes, so that he can't get
so he could be on the sidelines or something like that. Yeah. So that was really interesting.
Yes.
We'll find out is it Don or Dom?
I don't know. I kind of been doing 50-50.
So we'll find out if he is the good luck charm. So
we will.
Very interesting.
What would be hilarious if it came out in the future is if it was that guy being the middleman between Jalen Hurts and Sirianni.
Could be.
And it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Be funny. Also, the last thing we'll touch on today, Jim Harbaugh getting the no cause allowed back in the NCAA. If he comes back, he'll be suspended for a year.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I saw that something came out, but I didn't see what it was.
So that was short. That was a very simple explanation of what I understood. So it's basically they told him if he comes back within the next 4 years to NCAA football, he's going to be suspended indefinitely for a year with absolutely no way to contact the team. Basically, he's not allowed to be around the program at all.
Well,
so that's like graduating from high school, and then the principal says, "We gave you detention if you ever re-enroll."
It's exactly what Pete Carroll's situation was in USC.
Because that was,
with Reggie Bush and all that crap back in the day, and he bolted that program to avoid any kind of repercussion. And so off he went to Seattle.
I have enjoyed all of the memes that come out about this because it's like, oh no, whatever will Jim Harbaugh do in the NFL?
Yeah.
And it's like, people are coming out saying, I don't think the NFL is going to do anything about this. And I'm like, they shouldn't. It's two very separate entities. And the last 3 or 4 years, the NCAA has been getting absolutely shit down their throat about some of their policies and the way they handle stuff.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, this wasn't even about the sign stealing stuff. This was about the early recruiting he was doing.
Yeah.
There was some story about him buying food for a recruit, and that was kind of what sparked all this. So who knows? I don't care. I thought the story was funny.
Yeah.
Again, I've taken it not on the shins, but growing up in Ohio, now being a Chargers fan, everyone just assumes that I was a Michigan fan before now.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard it a few times, and I'm like, go kick rocks.
Yeah.
Frankly, you're welcome that he's not in college anymore, given he would have been suspended this year, so Ohio State had a chance. But
right, yeah.
But he's gone now.
But the Miami University. Let's just be clear.
Well, yeah,
the Miami University.
The Miami University.
Yes.
But
since you took us out to LA with the Chargers,
oh boy,
let's just go right down the road to the Rams and chat just a little bit about Puka Nakua's knee injury.
Oh, yes.
Has him on a week-to-week basis right now. They seem to think he'll be fine. But you and I have talked about the Rams' offensive line and how important what they did in the offseason was for Matt Stafford having a good season that we both expect is going to happen.
Right.
Well, right now, Jonah Jackson, their starting left guard, was already lost. Week to week is what they're saying about that one, but it sounds more than that. Now, just I think in the last couple days, the left tackle, Aiyuk Jackson, the right tackle, Rob Havenstein, both of them now are week to week and out in the short term. So could this be another Christian McCaffrey? This is the gold on our team to keep our quarterback upright.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's a lot, and
that's
for the Rams' sake and for Matt Stafford's sake.
Yeah, if those are their starters, losing
3 of the 5.
Yeah, even having 1 or 2 on week to week, let alone 3 of them. Well, one's certainly gone.
Yeah.
2 of them are week to week.
Yes.
That is insane. Out of 5.
Yeah. So hopefully for their sake, and again, that the left guard, the right guard are the 2 free agents that they gave massive contracts to in the offseason to bolster that. In Stafford's face kind of thing. So,
well, on the bright side, they can always go get Winsworth. Who was the?
Whitworth.
Whitworth.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's gonna come out of retirement to save Stafford, but that's not good.
So
not to mention Nakua.
Yeah.
That's a knee injury going into the season. That's maybe not an issue right now, but that's something to keep in mind week 7 to 8 once the season's really in full gear. That might come back. It might not.
Yeah.
It's you never know.
Exactly.
Crazy shit.
That's right.
And that is a few headlines in the NFL this week.
That's right. Let's close out with name one surprise trade that you think will happen before the season starts. And it seems like there's always a couple of these.
Oh boy!
And so, it could be Aiyuk if you want to pick that and make that your call.
That feels too low hanging now.
Yep. But it seems like there's always some kind of shift, surprise.
Right.
Somebody's ready to give the younger player a chance. Somebody else wants the experienced guy. You want me to go first?
Yes.
So I'm going to take us back to your Charger land.
All right.
And I think the Chargers, Justin Herbert's going to be fine.
Right.
But I think one of the biggest challenges that team has, Quentin Johnson struggled in his rookie year.
Right.
I think that they're weak at receiver.
No doubt.
They've got youthful, inexperienced guys there.
For sure.
And I'm going to go back to my team to solve that problem for the Chargers. I think because the Chargers and the Cowboys have some connection there between the ownership.
They have more than you'd expect.
Yeah. I think Jalen Tolbert for Dallas is having a really good preseason.
Okay.
They're raving about him with CeeDee Lamb out.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving him more reps. He's developing. He was kind of a disappointment in the first 2 seasons ago, his first season. So I think Brandon Cooks is going to be on the market. And Brandon Cooks, while he's not an over-the-top kind of guy,
right,
he is a very steady player. I don't know if there's been a receiver in the history of the NFL that's had more 1,000-yard seasons with more different teams than Brandon Cooks.
He's up there for sure. He's a consistent wide receiver.
And because the Cowboys are such stupid traders, see Amari Cooper give up a first pick or whatever they did and give him away to Cleveland for a sixth rounder. That's just stupid. And I think Cowboy Nation agrees with me on that.
Right.
Dallas will probably give Brandon Cooks to the Chargers for like a 5th or 6th round pick. But he would solidify and give Justin Herbert that dependable guy that can run about every route you've got. And that's my surprise trade, I think, that'll happen before the season starts.
Interesting.
Raiders have a couple tight ends now, don't they?
I was going to say, do I do Trey Lance to the Raiders?
Well, Trey Lance is not a bad idea.
That solves a few problems right there.
Yeah.
Considering the Raiders decided to get another first-round tight end.
Yeah.
Idiots.
Again, I don't get it either.
No.
You got no one to throw to him, really.
Aiden O'Connell,
no.
Jimmy G.
So
Jimmy G's golden age is over, but that's not neither here nor there. You know what? I'll just say that one. I'll go with this. I bet at some point here shortly the Raiders wake up and realize they don't have a quarterback, and they need a second string. Jimmy G, I think, is still dealing with the issues on if he's allowed to play.
I don't think he's back. Yeah, I think he's injured reserve or something
he's
like
some
that.
list. So
he's not cleared.
Right, that's what I'm saying is there's still a bunch of gray area, I think. Don't crucify me. We're just doing hypotheticals. So if Jimmy G is still like that, and Aiden O'Connell is the only quarterback in Las Vegas right now, which is hell of a gamble, let's do Trey Lance to the Cowboys. I mean, fucking Raiders. I had one job. Trey Lance to the Raiders. Only because I think the Cowboys could still get some value out of him. I've seen some stuff where people aren't so high on him anymore, even in that sense.
Yeah.
But a young, potential high-round draft pick regardless still carries weight if he hasn't played in very many starting games. You don't lose that value until it's confirmed in numerous games that you're ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen,
True.
all these quarterbacks. Well, Sam Darnold's the Vikings, but that's their deal.
Yeah.
But, until they start playing all these games or starting all these games and losing, I don't think they lose as much value as many of us think they do.
Mm-hmm.
And with Trey Lance now being behind Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and both some pretty good offenses, frankly, between the 49ers and the Cowboys, no matter what you think of the Cowboys or 49ers, he's got to have picked up something.
You would think.
So that's where I'm thinking. If I'm thinking that, someone's got to have more info into both of those coaching trees on the Raiders. Because there's already connections there a couple years ago, I think. So
and I agree.
I'm going to go with that as my hypothetical.
And if I could throw one caveat to your pick there, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Cooper Rush instead of Trey Lance.
I could see that.
So I think your call,
someone that's been in the games and actually pretty good,
would be either one. When is the last time you've seen a team go into preseason, the head coach and all quarterbacks all on 1-year deals?
Mm-hmm.
It's unheard of.
It is. It sends a message.
It does.
So they're coaching for their career. or playing for their career.
And again, you could say it this way. You could say when Jerry Jones says, when Jerry says that they're all in, people think because you didn't sign people, it means you're not.
No,
But what puts more pressure on somebody to have a new lucrative long-term deal, or to be playing for your life on a 1 year?
Yeah.
The coach and all 3 quarterbacks are on 1 year deals. It still holds my theory here.
I completely agree.
That
Jerry's all in.
He is all in.
He's
in a way that a business owner would be with someone that's not getting the job done.
Yep. He's not all in as in, we bought all these things. Everyone's got one life.
That's right.
Don't fuck it up.
Yep. And that is all in from a perspective.
No, it is. And I think
probably the roughest way he could do it.
I don't think I've thought about it that way yet. But I think I know you're right.
And again, it goes back and supports my theory.
Yeah.
We're back to Deion Sanders and Sanders' kid at quarterback. I don't know.
I so agree with that statement.
So anyway,
fuck. That'll be crazy. But we have some predictions on this channel that if they come true, we will be dancing on the graves, and they probably won't. So
we'll still keep throwing them out.
Yeah,
anyway.
But a Cowboys quarterback to the Raiders.
Yep.
Even if it's Dak.
Perfect.
I'm just kidding. That would be fucking insane.
Could happen in the offseason.
Yeah, could, I guess. Yeah. That'd be crazy. Nevertheless, that's episode 39. The news this week brought to you by the Coy Pond. We will be back next week at normal times. I don't have anything else to say.
Can't wait.
NFL season's almost here. We're close. Get your fantasy cheat sheets ready. And we will see you next week. Peace.